All right, so think about this for a second. We all know what it takes to win an Olympic medal, right? But what if I told you that for almost 40 years, you didn't have to be the fastest runner or the strongest weightlifter? Nope. All you really needed was a paintbrush. I mean, seriously, when I say the word Olympian, what pops into your head? It's probably some incredible athlete, right? Someone with peak physical conditioning. We're talking photo finishes, shattered world records, just the absolute peak of human strength and endurance. Yeah, exactly. We think of athletes defined by things like speed and strength. We definitely don't imagine an Olympian whose main tools are, a canvas or a chisel or the meter of a poem. But here's the crazy part. For a while, they were actually one and the same. No, I'm not kidding. For a huge chunk of the 20th century, the official Olympic Games had this thing called the Pentathlon of the Muses. And get this, it meant art was just as much a medaled sport as the 100-meter dash. Wild, right? So how in the world did this happen? Well, this incredible idea actually goes all the way back to the founder of the modern Olympics himself and what he thought a true Olympian really ought to be. You see, Baron Pierre de Coubertin, he was looking back to the ancient Greeks for inspiration, and they celebrated art and music right alongside all their athletic stuff. He had this vision that the Olympics should honor both the mind and the body. He thought a complete, well-rounded person was someone who excelled at both. And just like that, the Pentathlon of the Muses was born. And I really want to stress this. These were not some little side events or casual art shows. Nope. These were official competitions with official Olympic medals, running all the way from the 1912 Stockholm Games to the 1948 London Games. So what could you actually win a gold medal for? Well, there were 5 official categories. Check this out. Architecture, literature, music, painting, and sculpture. Yes, you could literally win an Olympic gold medal for writing a poem or for designing a building. It's just amazing to think about. Okay, but there was one major catch, a really important one. This was the rule that tied the whole thing together. Every single entry, it didn't matter if it was a sonata or a statue, it had to be inspired by sport. Now, the first few competitions were, kind of finding their footing. But then came the 1932 Games in Los Angeles, and that's when this whole thing just exploded. The art events became a massive, massive spectacle. I mean, just look at that number. Almost 400,000 people. That's how many visited the Olympic art exhibition at the Los Angeles Museum. This was no small sideshow, folks. At the time, it was one of the most successful art exhibitions in American history. Period. And they were handing out real prestigious medals. For example, an American architect, a famous guy named John Russell Pope, he won a silver medal. And what for? For his design of the gym at Yale. Think about that. His blueprint was his athletic performance. Or how about this one? Another American, Joseph Galinkin, took home the gold. He won in the Prince subcategory for this super energetic lithograph of a wrestling move called leg scissors. And yeah, he stood on that podium and got a medal, just like the fastest runners on the planet. But as you can probably guess, things weren't all perfect. Awarding a gold medal for a painting, well, it came with some pretty unique challenges, the kind you just don't get on a running track. And this really gets to the core of the problem, right? How do you even do that? How can you objectively declare that this painting is the gold medal painting, or that one poem is definitely better than another? How do you decide who gets gold and who gets silver? Think about it like this. A swimming race? It's decided by a clock. That's it. It's pure, objective data. But a painting competition? Well, that's decided by a jury, and their decision is always going to be subjective. This caused so much controversy. There were even times that judges just refused to award a gold medal at all because they couldn't agree. Okay, so that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 was this other huge issue, the super strict Olympic rule of amateurism. See, back then, athletes couldn't be professionals. They couldn't get paid for their sport. That's fine for, say, a college runner, but how does that work for artists? Almost every single high-level painter or architect sold their work to make a living. So by definition, they were professionals. And those two big problems, the subjective judging and the professional artist issue, well, they were the 1-2 punch that would ultimately bring this whole incredible era to an end. So here's how it all went down. After that amazing peak in '32, the competitions kind of limped along. They had their final showing at the 1948 London Games. And then, bam! The very next year, in 1949, the International Olympic Committee voted to get rid of the medals for good. They replaced them with those non-competitive cultural exhibitions, the kind we still have today. The final nail in the coffin really came from this one very influential IOC member, a guy named Avery Brundage. He argued, and argued fiercely, that these artists weren't really amateurs competing for glory. He said they were just professionals who were using the Olympics as a giant advertisement to sell their work. And in the end, his argument won the day. And yet, even though most people have forgotten about it, the legacy is still there. In total, 151 official Olympic medals for art were handed out. They're still in the IOC's official records, which is pretty amazing. They're this beautiful, kind of quirky reminder of a very, very different kind of Olympian. So, all of this leaves us with one last question to chew on. For just a little while, for a brief, fascinating moment in time, the world actually said yes. It said that a perfectly composed sonnet was worth its weight in Olympic gold. It said a feat of creativity was every bit as worthy of celebration as a feat of raw athleticism. And you just have to wonder, what would the Olympics look like today if that incredible vision had somehow survived?